Hello everyone and welcome back to Get Well, Live Strong. On our last video I talked to you about different diets that may be helpful to you, like the keto diet, the carnivore diet. And I mentioned a step-down approach if you're on the standard American diet and you feel like you need to be on even all the way down to the carnivore diet, how to do that. And I called it a step-down approach. Well, today that's what we're going to cover. We're going to cover that step by step, day by day, for 30 days to get you from the standard American diet all the way down to the carnivore diet, if that's what's necessary to bring about your metabolic health. So why would you even do that, first of all? You know, you may say, Reba, I'm ready, man. I'm just going to go cold turkey all the way down to the carnivore diet. That's just great. Well, you could, but you'll probably be very uncomfortable because you're dealing with sugar, you're dealing with sugar addiction, you're dealing with cravings, you're dealing with the fact that your body has been for quite some time trying to metabolize those types of things. And so while you can do that, and some people do that, it may work for you, but the overwhelming majority of us need more of a slow moving into that type of diet. You'll have far less discomfort if you do a step-down approach. So with that in mind, let's get to it. I've broken this down into 4 different components, 1 week apart. Okay? The first week, this is what you should do. This is days 1 through 7. You really want to concentrate on getting rid of and eliminating the biggest offenders. Okay? What this is going to accomplish in your body, this is going to stop feeding your cravings. Okay? So, what is it that you should eliminate during this first week? Well, soft drinks. And I'm sorry to say this for you people who live in the South, for us people who live in the South, sweet tea, fruit juice, candy, cookies, cakes, ice cream, breakfast pastries. So what should you eat? And you should eat more of beef, chicken, fish, eggs, butter, cheese. If you can tolerate yogurt, full-fat, plain Greek yogurt, and vegetables. The habits that you need to establish during this first week is to drink plenty of water, to eat protein at every meal, and don't worry about calories this week. We're not counting calories. We're establishing a new eat pattern. So you're successful at doing that week 2, days 8 through 14. What you're wanting to do is to remove grains from your diet. The goal now in this week is to begin lowering your insulin demand. So here's what you need to do. You need to remove bread, pasta, rice, tortillas, crackers, cereal, oatmeal, and then you should continue eating what you started last week, which is the meat, the eggs, the cheese, the butter, the vegetables, salads, avocados, extra virgin olive oil. And this week you need to focus on this. If you're hungry, go ahead and eat. It's what you eat that's going to make the difference, particularly in this second week. And that is, eat more protein rather than reaching out for the snacks, rather than reaching out for the potato chips, rather than reaching out for the cookies or the candy. Reach out for protein. Now we come to week 3. This is where you enter the low carb or the keto realm. Okay, you've been successful at eliminating the processed foods, eliminating the sugar, and you've taken a week to get acclimated to that, and then you start removing the grains, those things that are so high in insulin demand on your body. Well, now you are going to be teaching in week 3, days 15 through 21, exactly what your body needs, and it begins to learn to rely on less carbohydrates. So you need to then, this week, remove potatoes, corn, beans, most fruit, honey, and syrups. So this week, what you should be eating: beef, chicken, pork, fish, eggs, bacon, butter, heavy cream, if you tolerate that, cheese, and low-carb vegetables. You see, what you're going to try to do this week is to try to keep digestible carbohydrates low enough that many people would enter ketosis, which is somewhere around 20 to 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. We get through that week where our body's adjusting, it's going into ketosis, it is adjusting to that. Your body has started producing natural ketones to help fuel you instead of the carbohydrates that you had so much of. You now enter into week 4, and that's days 22 through 30. And that is the trial of carnivore. And the goal is to simplify the diet and see how you feel. You can eat beef, lamb, pork, chicken, turkey, fish, seafood, eggs, butter, salt, and of course water. You know, many people on the carnivore diet, they include small amounts of dairy if they can tolerate that. If you have trouble with milk products, I would recommend that you go with A2 products. That's a difference in the protein of the milk. We can talk about that on a different video. But if you are having trouble and you want to do some dairy, if you have decided to go to the carnivore diet, then what you would want to try to do is get A2 milk and milk products if you possibly can. The key when you're on the carnivore diet is to eat until you're satisfied, because your body, when you're putting that proper nutrition into your body has an automatic signal system that's going to tell you when you're full, and you're not going to keep eating. You're going to stop, and your body's going to feel full. It's going to feel satisfied. You're going to be fine. You know, don't try to restrict portions. Okay, don't say, oh my gosh, I only need 2 ounces of this chicken breast. No, you need to prioritize getting enough protein and eating enough to feel comfortably full. You don't want to stuff yourself where you feel like you're going to explode, but where you feel comfortably full. Okay? And throughout this process, all these 4 weeks, what you're going to want to do is to try to develop certain daily success habits. So what are those? Well, start your morning by drinking water, even before you have coffee. If you want to have coffee, great. But before you drink that coffee, get hydrated with some water. Some people even actually put a few electrolytes in that water, so they drink that so they immediately get hydration. And I think that's actually a good idea, because during the night, especially if you're like me, but everybody this happens to, you get dehydrated overnight. And so the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, you rehydrate it. Your body will thank you. I promise you that. The second habit that you want to get into, this is a daily success habit, and that is to eat protein at every meal. The third thing that you want to get into the habit of doing is walking 10 or 20 minutes after at least one of your meals, preferably your evening meal. Actually, the best thing is to do it at every meal. Get up from your table, don't clear the dishes yet, go for a walk. Just 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm not talking about a power walk. I'm not talking about a run, just a stroll. And there's a reason for that. I'm actually going to put out a video on that, because I think that many people are really needing to know about why you do that. So watch for that video, because it is enlightening, and I promise you it will make you change your habits. The fourth thing that you want to do is you want to aim for somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every single night. Now, if you're like me, my body, the only way that I'd be able to sleep 9 hours a night is if I had some kind of a narcotic sleep aid, because my body just doesn't need that much sleep. But I don't want you to confuse that with a condition that I had when I was suffering from insulin resistance, and that was an inability to sleep. I either couldn't go to sleep, even though I'd be so tired sitting in the recliner chair that I couldn't hold my eyes open. I get up, I walk to the bedroom, lay down in the bed, and I'm wide awake. Or I'd wake up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and couldn't go back to sleep. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about your normal body's need for sleep. The average person needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Most nights I can manage 7, but I can't sleep more than that. My body just won't do it, okay? But you need to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep every single night. And you also need to spend a few minutes. This is number 5, by the way. You need to spend a few minutes managing your stress through prayer, quiet reflection. Some people do breathing exercises or some other kind of calming practice. Prayer works wonders for me. I get close to the Holy Spirit, and He is my comforter. It just makes the cares and the stress of the day just seem to melt away. I do it early and I do it often throughout the day. And I like to go for a walk. I'll go out and walk over the farm and just pray and seek God. And I always like to think of the things like Philippians chapter 4 tells us that if those things are good and they have a good report and they have virtue, and they, that we're to think on these things. And when my mind starts going down a negative trail because of a stressful day I've had, I remind myself, and I'll go and I'll read Philippians chapter 4, and I'll start thinking of those things. What things in my life have value? What things in those in my life have virtue? And I start thinking of those things. And also too, it also helps me to reduce my stress, to start thinking with an attitude of gratitude. No matter how hard my day is, no matter how stressful the day is, I have things that I can be grateful for. And if nothing else, that I lived the day to experience those things that may be troublesome. And then all of a sudden, that weight and the stress of the day just kind of seems to go when I put things in the proper perspective in light of God's kingdom. And the seventh thing that you have to remember is that the experience varies from person to person. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you overwhelms me, okay? So things that you need to be aware of. If you decide to take this journey, and I hope you do, in this 4-week process, to step down as far as you need to step down in order to cure the metabolic dysfunction that you have and reduce or eliminate that insulin resistance, so that your body can heal and it can do what it's supposed to do. During different parts of this process, you may experience different things. And so that's what I want to talk to you about right now. In week number 1, your sugar cravings may be strong. Okay? Just be aware of that. And when you have those times where you feel hungry and you feel like you want to get that sugary snack, reach for protein instead. Every time you get a craving, just reach for a little bit of protein. Take in that protein. That will help. The second thing during week 1 that you may experience is that your hunger patterns may begin to change. Hopefully they'll be changing for the better. You may not feel as hungry. You may be hungry at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when you weren't hungry when you woke up, like you normally are, famished because you had that high carbohydrate diet and you just have to get some food in you. Got to have my coffee right away, got to have the food. So you might see that starting to change. Don't worry about that. That's a natural process in this transition. Week number 2, you probably are going to find 2 really good things that may happen. Most people, they start to notice that they have steadier energy throughout the day. You know, on a high carbohydrate, high processed sugar diet, you start crashing, especially after lunch. You know, you just start crashing. You're not, hopefully, and most people do, you're going to see a change in that where you seem to have more steady energy throughout the day. The second thing is that many people that's when they begin to lose weight. If you have a lot of inflammation in your body and you start doing this, you may find weight gain even quicker. If you do, because you're starting to put things in, you're eliminating the inflammatory foods, and you're starting to put foods in your body that are anti-inflammatory, and so you may see a weight loss very quickly, but most people begin to see a weight loss beginning in week 2. During week 3, most people, they start to see reduced appetite. They don't feel that urgency to eat anymore. They don't feel that, oh my gosh, if I don't put food in my body in the next 10 seconds, I'm going to die. That kind of goes away. And the reason that that goes away is because now, if you've done what you committed to do in week 1, and you've committed what you committed to, and you've done what you committed to in week 2, by the time you get to week 3, what's happening is you're having fewer of those blood sugar swings. You get more on an even keel. And the second thing is that you may have a temporary adjustment period as the carbohydrate intake drops. You know, your body may rebel a little bit, actually, and say, you know, no, I want the carbs. Give me the carbs. You know, it's kind of like a kid, you know, a child, when you're teaching them how to eat properly, you know, and you put green beans on their plate and they go, no, I don't want the green beans. I want the candy. It's kind of what your body's doing. So don't be surprised if that may happen. But your body also is going to adjust to you only taking in very low carbohydrate and very high protein, and it is going to be a very positive adjustment. And so that's what we're aiming for. And then by the time you get to week 4, if you need to go to week 4, which is going into a carnivore diet, number 1, some people report improved satiety. That's where I'm feeling satisfied. And they also experience positive digestive changes. The second thing that you have to remember is that everybody responds a little bit differently. And so you need to make sure that you're aware of and that you pay attention to how your own body is responding to this. So your goal isn't perfection in these 30 days. Your goal is progress. And every sugary drink you replace, every piece of bread that you leave behind, every protein-rich meal that you choose is one step toward better health. Don't compare your journey with anybody else's, please. This is your own personal journey. Just take the next step. And before long, you'll be able to look back and realize how far you've come. Together, we're going to get well and live strong. You're well on your way now, and you're going to want to know how to determine if you're improving, right? Because, you know, it's like, well, I feel this and I feel that, but is that good? Is that bad? Well, on our next video, I'm going to talk about 7 signs that your metabolic health is improving long before the scales change. So I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video. But until then, get well, live strong. God bless.